You're about to learn something that most women never figure out. Not from their friends, not from dating advice, and definitely not from trying harder. There is a single moment, one simple shift that when done just once, plants you so deep in a man's mind that he can't stop thinking about you. And the wildest part, he won't even understand why he misses you so much. He won't be able to explain why his chest feels heavy when he thinks about you, why your absence feels louder than anyone else's presence. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding the kind that gives you access to how his mind works, how his heart attaches, and why some women fade from memory while others become impossible to forget. Most people believe that if they want a man to miss them, they have to create physical distance. They think that by disappearing for a while, by not texting back, or by becoming suddenly unavailable, he will suddenly realize what he lost. But distance alone doesn't create emotional longing. You can be miles apart from someone and they still feel nothing. Or you can be in the same room and he can feel like his world is falling apart without your emotional presence. Missing someone doesn't come from silence. It comes from the loss of a feeling he didn't realize mattered until it was gone. The real trigger that makes a man miss you is not your physical absence. It is the absence of the emotional experience he attached to you. Men don't miss the person. They miss the way that person made them feel. They miss the version of themselves they became when that person was in their life. When he thinks of you, he doesn't replay your face like a photograph. He replays how he felt when you laughed at his jokes, when you believed in his dreams, when you saw something in him that maybe he didn't even see in himself. Those moments become emotional anchors in his memory. That is what causes longing. When you were around, you made him feel something that his mind registered as valuable. Maybe you gave him peace in a world that feels chaotic. Maybe you sparked excitement in a life that had become too predictable. Maybe you made him feel desired in a way no one else could. Whatever the feeling was, it wasn't something he could easily generate on his own. He subconsciously relied on you for that emotional experience. And as humans, when we subconsciously rely on someone, we rarely realize what that person means to us until we no longer have access to what they provided. So, the moment you remove that emotional energy, not dramatically, not angrily, but simply by shifting your attention back to yourself, his system notices, not instantly. The realization isn't loud at first. It begins quietly, like a faint discomfort. Something feels off. Something feels missing. A routine that once felt effortless suddenly feels incomplete. He might not even recognize that the uncomfortable feeling is connected to you yet, but his nervous system has already registered that something he depended on has disappeared. That is when his mind begins searching for the emotional state that made him feel alive, important, supported, wanted, whatever that feeling was. He may try to find it through distractions, friends, dating someone new, or throwing himself into work. But none of it hits the same, because that feeling wasn't generic. It was tied to you. You became the source of it. His brain linked that emotional reward to your presence, your voice, your energy. And when he can't get that feeling anywhere else, that's when missing becomes real. This is where most women get hurt without understanding why. They think, I was always there for him. I gave him everything. Why doesn't he miss me? But that's exactly the problem. When you give too much, too consistently, too unconditionally, his nervous system stops registering your presence as something that must be earned. Your energy becomes predictable. It becomes guaranteed, and the human brain stops valuing what feels guaranteed. There's no risk of losing you. There's no fear. There's no edge. Without a sense of potential loss, attachment cannot deepen. Longing cannot grow. Missing exists only when there is contrast. To crave warmth, there must be cold. To crave closeness, there must be distance. To crave connection, there must be moments of uncertainty. When you are always emotionally available, answering quickly, giving affection freely, constantly showing you care, his nervous system settled into comfort. And comfort kills curiosity, it kills pursuit, it kills desire. So when you stop over giving, when you stop trying to make sure he's always okay, when you redirect the emotional energy inward, the contrast hits him. He starts to feel the loss of what he never realized he was receiving. He questions why you're not as available. He wonders what changed. The shift creates an emotional gap. And the male mind hates unanswered questions. That open loop keeps you in his thoughts. He may try to brush it off, but that tension doesn't go away. His attachment system becomes activated. He starts remembering moments he ignored. He notices the empty spaces where your effort used to fill in. He realizes that he no longer has the comfort of your presence. And that's when the missing intensifies. Men do not chase clarity. They chase what feels uncertain, what feels rare, what they fear losing. If you were a constant flow of affection, attention, reassurance, you left nothing for him to chase. But when you pull back with calm confidence, not out of insecurity or anger, but out of self-respect, his emotional instinct wakes up. His internal dialogue shifts from, she's always there, to, where is she? And eventually to, do I still matter to her? That is the moment longing is born. He does not miss you because you disappear. He misses you because the version of himself he loved, the one who felt interesting, admired, powerful, or loved around you, that version disappears with you, and he struggles to recreate it anywhere else. He begins to realize that what you gave him was not normal. It was not replaceable. It was not something he can easily find with another woman. And that scarcity creates desire. So if you want a man to miss you deeply, don't focus on pulling away physically. Focus on shifting emotionally. Stop filling silence. Stop chasing reassurance. Stop proving your value. Stop being the one who always reaches out, fixes things, makes effort first. Instead, reconnect with yourself. Invest in your own life. Fill your time with things that feed you. When he sees that your world doesn't revolve around him anymore, that his presence is no longer the center of your joy, that is when he feels the loss. That is when he understands the privilege your presence once was. Missing you is not about what you take away. It's about what you stop giving. And when that happens, not as a strategy, but as a natural result of loving yourself more, his heart will tell him what his ego ignored. You mattered more than he realized. And now, without your emotional warmth in his life, he has to sit with the discomfort of that truth. He has to feel the emptiness your absence created. And that is when he will finally miss you, not because you left, but because life without your energy doesn't feel the same anymore. When a man misses you, truly misses you, it shows up in ways he'll never say out loud. Continue the full section you already wrote, only structured here. Let's talk about what I call pattern disruption, the single most powerful move you can make when someone has become too comfortable taking you for granted. Most people repeat the same behaviors in relationships without ever questioning whether those behaviors are actually serving them. We chase when someone pulls away. We try to prove our worth when someone withdraws affection. We text more, call more, give more, hoping that extra effort will bring them closer. But all that does is reinforce the exact dynamic that is hurting us. When someone starts acting distant, our instinct is to close the gap. But that instinct often pushes them even further away. Pattern disruption flips that instinct on its head. Instead of following the usual script, you change your behavior in a way that forces the other person to wake up and re-evaluate how they're treating you. When someone gets used to the idea that you'll always be there, they stop putting in effort. They stop appreciating your presence. They assume access to you is guaranteed no matter how little they give back. Pattern disruption interrupts that assumption. It says, hold up, my presence is earned, not owed. And suddenly, the dynamic shifts. The moment you stop responding instantly, the moment you stop being available at their convenience, the moment your mood and energy are no longer determined by their scraps of attention, they notice. Human beings crave what they feel they might lose. Scarcity creates value. Abundance, especially when it comes to attention, often creates complacency. You're not playing games, you're simply reclaiming balance. Pattern disruption starts with awareness. You have to notice the loops you're stuck in. Maybe every time they message you, you respond instantly, even if the conversation is one-sided. Maybe you always rearrange your schedule to fit their plans. Maybe you tolerate behaviors that drain you just because you're afraid that speaking up might push them away. Once you see the loop, you can finally break it. And the moment you break it, the relationship dynamic changes. Instead of you chasing where they lead, you step back and hold your ground. They now have to decide if they care enough to come forward. The most common reaction to someone withdrawing is anxiety. Did I do something wrong? Are they losing interest? Should I try harder? That anxiety convinces you that the best way to keep them is by giving them even more. But here's the truth most people never learn when you reward distance with pursuit. You teach that person they can maintain power without effort. You become the guarantee, they become the prize. Pattern disruption takes that power dynamic and flips it. You're no longer reacting to their behavior. You're setting the tone. You're showing that your value does not depend on their attention. Imagine you're always the one who starts conversations. Every day you reach out first. Then one day you don't. You wait. You focus on your life. You give your attention to things that feed you instead of draining you. What happens? Either they notice and take the initiative, or they don't, and both outcomes reveal something important. If they step up, you learn that they do care, they just got too comfortable. If they stay silent, you learn that you were the only one holding the connection together, and that information is priceless. It protects your self-respect. It saves you from investing in someone who was emotionally checked out. Pattern disruption is also about emotional regulation. When someone acts unpredictably, it often throws us into overthinking. We worry and we replay every detail in our mind. But when you stop reacting to their inconsistency and start acting from stability, the whole picture changes. Instead of your emotions rising and falling based on their attention, you remain steady. That steadiness is magnetic. It communicates that you are someone with a full life, someone who will not allow another person's mood swings to dictate your worth. One powerful example of pattern disruption is silence, not as punishment, but as space. Space communicates strength. Space communicates self-value. Space allows someone to feel your absence and see what life is like without your support, your encouragement, your kindness, your presence. But silence only works if you are genuinely pouring into yourself, not sitting by the phone waiting. The point isn't to manipulate them into coming back. The point is to realign the relationship with what you deserve. Another aspect of pattern disruption is breaking your own emotional habits. Maybe every time they give you a little attention, you light up and shower them with affection. Instead, try matching effort with effort. Slow down. Let reciprocity lead the dance. Often, the biggest pattern to break isn't what they're doing, it's what we're accepting. Because when you stop rewarding inconsistency, you force clarity. And clarity is something many people avoid because they fear it might reveal a painful truth. But the beautiful thing about truth is that it always protects you in the long run. Sometimes the biggest disruption is choosing not to explain yourself. When you pull back, they might ask, "What's wrong? Why aren't you being the same?" And instead of demanding more or pointing fingers, you calmly live your standard. You teach through behavior, not arguments. When you set a new pattern, people either rise to meet your value or reveal that they never planned to. Pattern disruption isn't dramatic, it's grounded. It's not chasing, it's choosing. It's not about making them miss you. It's about making sure you don't lose yourself. A lot of people fear that if they stop chasing, the connection will disappear. And yes, sometimes it will. But here's the question, if you disappearing is all it takes for the relationship to fall apart, was there ever a real relationship to begin with? Love, attraction, and effort require two people. If you're the only one showing up, you're not in a relationship. You're in a performance. Pattern disruption invites the other person to step into the role they should have been playing all along. It's a mirror. It reflects their behavior back at them. It gives them a moment to realize, I might actually lose this person. And that wake-up call is often what reignites effort, interest, desire, presence. Not because you begged for attention, but because you removed the illusion that your attention was guaranteed no matter what they did. Ultimately, pattern disruption is an act of self-respect. It says, I choose someone who chooses me. It shifts the narrative from scarcity, I hope they want me, to abundance. Anyone would be lucky to have me in their life, and I won't stay where I'm undervalued. It turns fear into confidence. It turns anxiety into clarity. It turns waiting into living. There's a moment in every dynamic where a man gets comfortable. Not comfortable in a secure, healthy way, comfortable in a way where he stops showing up with the same energy he used to. In the beginning, he was curious. He pursued. He noticed the little things. He asked questions because he wanted to know everything about you. But over time, if the balance shifts and he starts to see your attention as guaranteed, that curiosity fades. He stops trying to impress you. He stops trying to earn your presence. He assumes you'll be there no matter how little he contributes. That moment is the breaking point where many relationships quietly start to decline, not because of a big argument, but because one person stops appreciating the value of what they have. When someone grows too comfortable, they lose urgency. They forget that you are a person with needs, desires, and standards. They start acting like your world revolves around them, and they forget that your world is actually much bigger than just them. The biggest mistake people make in that moment is trying to win back the attention that's slipping away. They give more to someone who is already giving less. They try harder as the other person tries less. But the more you chase, the more you teach them that their lack of effort is acceptable. You unintentionally communicate that they can continue doing the bare minimum and still have full access to you. The truth is that when a man gets too comfortable, what he really needs is not more attention. It's a reality check. He needs to be reminded that your presence in his life is a privilege, not an entitlement. And the way you deliver that reminder is not by accusing him, pleading for more effort, or explaining why you deserve better. The most powerful shift happens through your actions. When you stop over-investing, when you stop making them the center of your emotional world, when you stop rewarding their bare minimum behavior, it sends a message louder than any speech could. If you want me, show me. Often, this shift doesn't require anger or dramatic confrontation. It simply asks you to return your focus to yourself. When you stop responding to every message instantly, when you stop making them your top priority, while they treat you like a backup plan, they suddenly feel the change. It disrupts the comfort zone they drifted into. Even if they don't acknowledge it out loud, they feel a loss of control. They start to wonder what's going on in your mind. They start to think about the possibility that someone else might be recognizing your worth while they're busy taking you for granted. This moment exposes the true intentions of a person. A man who genuinely cares will feel your shift and step up. He'll re-engage. He'll ask questions. He'll make an effort because he doesn't want to lose you. A man who only cared when things were convenient will fade away, not because you pushed him away, but because he wasn't committed enough to begin with. And as painful as that revelation can be, it protects you. It saves you from investing more time in someone who was only halfway in. When a man becomes comfortable in the wrong ways, he often tests boundaries without even realizing it. He might cancel plans last minute, expecting you to be fine with it. He might take hours or days to respond, knowing you'll still be excited to hear from him. He might stop giving compliments or communicating affection because he thinks you already know how he feels. But love doesn't live in assumptions. It lives in effort. Effort is a choice. Effort is what turns feelings into something real. When effort disappears, connection weakens. And the only way to strengthen that connection again is by creating a shift that forces him to see what he's at risk of losing. Sometimes the shift is internal, a change in how you react. You no longer let his inconsistency dictate your emotions. You stop asking for breadcrumbs of attention. You stop overthinking what his silence means. You focus on things that bring you joy, fulfillment, and confidence outside of him. And the more you pour into yourself, the less power his distance has over you. That is when the tables turn. Because nothing makes a person more aware of your value than seeing you thrive without needing them. People don't appreciate what they believe they'll never lose. They appreciate what they fear losing. When a man gets comfortable, he forgets that other people would be thrilled to have the connection he's treating so casually. He forgets that you are someone others would show up for, someone others would choose with clarity and enthusiasm. When your energy pulls back, he sees that you are not dependent on his attention for your happiness. He sees that you are a whole person with or without him, and that recognition is powerful. It forces him to wake up. Comfort without effort is the silent killer of attraction. Not because comfort is bad, real connection needs comfort, but because effort is what keeps passion alive. When you stop evolving together, you start drifting apart. The man who once admired your strength may take it for granted if you shrink yourself just to hold on to him. So the real challenge is staying true to yourself. Do not shrink. Do not soften your standards. Do not trade your self-respect for someone's temporary attention. The right person will rise to meet you where you stand. There comes a moment when you must choose, do I keep giving to someone who has stopped giving back, or do I step back and give to myself? That choice determines whether you continue a pattern that drains you or create a pattern that elevates you. It is not your job to convince someone to treat you well. It is your job to treat yourself well so that anyone who wants to stay in your life must match that standard. You deserve someone who sees you even when things become comfortable. Someone who doesn't stop trying just because they think they've already won you. Someone who understands that love isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a journey that requires ongoing effort, presence, and care. And when a man realizes he could lose you if he stops walking that journey with you, that's when comfort transforms into commitment. Now, here's something that will change everything you think you know about being missed. People don't miss you because you disappear. They miss you because when you step back, they suddenly remember the experience of having you. It's not the absence itself that creates the desire. It's what existed before the absence. You can vanish from someone's life completely, but if they never truly felt your presence when you were there, they won't feel anything when you're gone. That's the real truth most people never consider. Being missed is not created in silence alone, it's created by the impact you made before the silence. Most people assume that if they pull away, the other person will chase. They believe distance alone is the strategy. But distance without value doesn't generate longing. It generates freedom. If someone feels more relief than loss when you step back, then the relationship wasn't what you thought it was. The real power lies in being someone who adds meaning, joy, depth, and emotional richness to another person's life. When that disappears, it leaves a gap, a noticeable shift, a feeling of discomfort that says something important is missing here. That is when people start to miss you. Being missed starts with the version of yourself you show up as. When you are confident, grounded, warm, supportive, fun, and unpredictable in the best ways. You become the type of person people connect memories to. You become a source of good emotions. You become someone whose presence makes their life better. And once a person associates you with that feeling, losing access to you becomes a threat to their comfort and happiness. That's when missing you begins. Not because you disappeared, but because they remember what it felt like to have you. Here's the shift. Most people need stop worrying about being forgotten and start focusing on being unforgettable. Create moments that have weight, conversations that have depth, experiences that feel alive. When someone realizes that no one else brings what you bring, that is when they think about you at random moments. That is when they compare others to you and feel disappointed. That is when they check their phone hoping to see your name. Not because you demanded attention, but because you earned a place in their emotional world. When you step back after making a genuine impact, something changes in their mind. They reflect, they replay old moments, they remember the things you said that made them think. They recall the way you laughed, the way you listened, the way you challenged them to be better. They notice that the energy they took for granted is no longer there. And instead of you trying to hold on to them, they find themselves trying not to lose you. That emotional reversal is where attraction becomes stronger, where curiosity returns, where effort comes back. But missing you is not just about your positive qualities. It's also about boundaries. The more a person learns they cannot walk all over you, the more they respect your presence. Respect fuels desire. If someone thinks you'll always be there no matter how they behave, they stop trying to deserve you. When they see you have standards, that you are willing to walk away if you are not valued, suddenly your attention becomes something to be earned again. They start questioning themselves. Did I mess up? Did I push too far? Am I losing her? That internal dialogue is what generates longing. Without standards, there is no fear of loss. Without fear of loss, there is no desire to keep. People don't miss someone who makes themselves small and available at all times. They miss someone who brings value but refuses to be taken for granted. They miss someone who shows love but still loves themselves more. They miss someone who isn't afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't feed their soul. That combination of heart and strength is magnetic. It makes someone realize that your presence requires effort, presence, and intention in return. Missing you also happens when you stop filling every silence. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't explain your worth. You allow the distance to do the talking. Silence is uncomfortable, especially for someone who was used to having your attention without having to earn it. They start thinking about what you're doing, who you're with, whether someone else is noticing what they overlooked. Imagination becomes your greatest ally. When someone doesn't know what's going on in your life, they assume possibilities that make them feel urgency again. Another powerful part of being missed is growth. When they come back to look at you, whether that's in a week, a month, or a year, and they see that you're glowing, upgrading, evolving, that hits differently, they realize you didn't freeze in place waiting for them. You kept moving forward. And nothing makes a person rethink their decisions like seeing someone they took for granted stepping into a better life without them. Missing you isn't always loud. Sometimes it shows up as subtle behaviors. They check your profile, they watch your stories, they ask mutual friends about you. They attempt casual contact that seems innocent, but it's actually a test to see if the door is still open. Missing you pushes them to make moves they never made before, not because you forced them, but because losing you awakened something they thought they'd always have. Being missed is a reflection of how much someone values what you gave them. And real value doesn't come from desperately trying to please someone. It comes from showing up authentically, strengthening your sense of self, and refusing to lower your standards. It comes from living a life so rich that your presence feels like a gift, not a request. When you become a person who brings emotional impact, depth, and consistency, you become unforgettable. And unforgettable people are always missed. So don't focus on whether someone will miss you when you walk away. Focus on being someone they would be foolish to lose. When you do that, missing you becomes inevitable because People can replace attention easily, but replacing a real connection, that's rare. And when they realize they can't replace you, that's when everything changes. By now, you've learned something most women never figure out. You've learned that being missed is not an accident. It's a standard. It's a reflection of the respect you demand in every moment. When you stop tying your self-worth to whether someone chooses you, you rise into a version of yourself that automatically earns deeper desire, deeper attention, and deeper commitment. You have discovered that connection is not about holding on the tightest. It's about holding on to yourself. Because the moment you lose yourself trying to keep someone else, you lose the only thing that ever made you magnetic in the first place. Most women are trained to believe that love must be earned through sacrifice, that patience always pays off, that if you just give more, try harder, and wait longer, eventually he will see your value. But you now understand that love is not a reward for suffering. Missing you is not created by how much you tolerate, it's created by how much you won't. When you show someone that you have a threshold, that you are not willing to dim your light just to keep them comfortable, you teach them how they must show up if they want a place in your life. There is a certain power that comes with knowing your absence can speak louder than your words. It means you have built enough value, enough presence, enough impact, that when you step back, the silence holds weight. You don't have to beg someone to remember what you brought into their life. They feel the shift internally. They recognize the loss before they can even articulate it. And that realization shakes them into awareness you are not replaceable. You are not optional. You are the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. You've learned that confidence doesn't mean pretending you don't care. It means caring about yourself enough to walk away from anything that demands you shrink. It means trusting that the right person will step up, not disappear. It means knowing that your life is richer when you choose yourself first. Self-respect is not arrogance, it's alignment. It's choosing not to abandon your standards for temporary company. When you do that, you shift from someone who needs love into someone who attracts it effortlessly. Missing you is no longer a hope. It's a guarantee because you show up with real energy, you give without losing yourself, you bring warmth without letting someone drain you, you love boldly, but with boundaries. There is substance behind your presence, there is strength behind your heart. You became someone who cannot be easily forgotten, not because you tried to be memorable, but because you are deeply, authentically yourself. You understand now that pulling away is not always about ending something. Sometimes it's about giving the other person a chance to rise, to step into the role they should have played, to match the effort you always gave so generously. If they fail to rise, that's not your loss. That's your clarity. You don't lose love by removing what is hurting you. You lose pain. You lose confusion. You lose the weight of someone who wasn't willing to carry any of it with you. What you gain is peace. And peace is far more valuable than attention from someone unsure about you. Peace allows you to think clearly. It helps you recognize who deserves a seat at your table. It reminds you that love should feel like partnership, not performance. When peace enters your life, chaos becomes obvious. When respect becomes a standard, disrespect becomes unacceptable. When self-value becomes natural, begging becomes impossible. You have learned that love does not chase. Love chooses. And if someone is not choosing you with intention, with effort, with consistency, then their love is not enough for you. Half-hearted attention is not a compliment. Maybe is not a place to build a future. You are done being an option. You are done waiting for someone to realize your worth. You are done accepting crumbs when you have always been the feast. There is a quiet kind of power in walking away without drama. When you leave the door open but decide not to stand in the doorway anymore, they feel the shift. They notice that the energy no longer flows through them. Your happiness, your passion, your purpose, they are no longer dependent on whether he shows up or not. You reclaimed your emotional independence, and that is what flips the dynamic completely. Because a woman who doesn't need a man is the woman he wants the most. Remember this, the kind of man who truly deserves you will not need to lose you to wake up. He will see your worth while he has you. He will show up not because he fears you'll leave, but because he loves the way you stay. He won't let comfort turn into laziness. He won't let familiarity turn into disrespect. He won't let silence become the loudest part of your relationship. You have become the woman who is no longer afraid of letting go. You know that walking away is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your freedom. You trust that the world is full of people who would be grateful to have what he took for granted. You know that your future does not hinge on one person's ability to recognize your greatness. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are already chosen. by yourself. So when he looks around and realizes his life feels dull without you, when he scrolls through his memories and sees all the moments where you showed love he never returned, when he recognizes that no one else makes him feel the way you did, that's when missing you becomes unavoidable. And whether he acts on that feeling or not, you remain the one in control. Because missing you doesn't change your worth. It only confirms it. You have stepped into a new reality, a reality where your presence is earned, not assumed. Where your love is shared, not drained. Where your heart is open, but also protected. You don't need to convince anyone to stay. If they want to go, you hold the door with grace. Because you finally understand the person you are becoming will never lose someone who is meant to stay.